Hey to all my allies, theys, and gays. It is the Lesbian Lounge. But today, you only get one lesbian, one bean, because the wifey is in another state and I'm in another state. But we are still showing up and doing the damn thing because we want to continue to empower you, to help you feel like you are moving in the right direction. Either if just being a part of a community that sees you exactly for you, or maybe you want to learn more about what the Hazels are all about. And today's topic, as I am building out this challenge for self doubt to self love, I want to cover what it is exactly that we go through as an LGBTQ person or even just an ally. Because here she is. That's the person I'm watching. But we all experience some type of self doubt in our lives. And sometimes we don't even know what it is and pinpointing it to where it causes us to not show up for ourselves anymore, to feel stuck. And I struggle with this a lot, pretty much when I had situations from when I was a kid to in college. And I think that's where it started to fester more for me on self doubt. You know, I played soccer and I was on a team that I played every single minute, and I had all the things going for me. But in college, something really changed to where it was a moment that really defined my journey in not believing who I was and not confident in myself. And I failed my fitness test. It was a test that really was a mental battle. It was all mindset. If you had your mind strong and ready to go for that test, you can overcome it. And I took this test a few times and thought I was going to be ready. And when I got onto campus as a freshman back in 2012, I failed the day that we began the test. And it was because I let my thoughts get the best of me. I was not confident that I could pass it. I kept repeating in my head, like, I can't do this, I can't do this. So when your mind is not strong, you are going to fail. And that's why this foundation in my coaching program with lesbians as well as allies that I've worked with, we want to focus on our mindset. That's the piece that nobody teaches us. And that's the thing that makes it a lifestyle for you to keep showing up for yourself unapologetically. And I didn't realize how important it was when I was getting to that point in my career. So what happened this day that I did not pass the test, I had all of my coaches pissed off, disappointed, because I was supposed to be this player that was going to come in and do big things. And, you know, there was a lot that I felt like was riding on me. And that confidence that I had after that dropped significantly. And what happened that day, they decided I was not going to be participating with the team moving forward, meaning I was going to be off on the sideline doing shit around the track, dying basically, because they're like, we're going to get you physically fit and we're going to run you to death. Those days that I had for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I wanted to quit so many times. I'm like, why the fuck am I showing up when I'm just going to be drilled into the floor? And the girl that trained me, she actually was a person that was no longer playing anymore. And she was a person that had one too many concussions. And I remember watching her play when it was against Texas A&M. And I was a recruit at the time, and I was in there for a weekend to see the campus and stuff. And I remember her getting cleated right down the neck. Sorry, I got one nail left from Chaparral. Being cleated down the neck. And we were going back in the locker room. We were allowed to go back in with them and see everything. And she was like, we lost? What was the score? She did not remember anything. And I just was like mind blown that this shit was happening. This girl, Mur. It was just like crazy to me that she had no idea. And that was scary to watch because I'm like, I've had concussions and I almost lost my career when I was in high school, and I probably should have stopped playing back in my junior year of high school when I had a pretty bad one where my pupils, one was really small, one was really big, and the doctors had told my mom that day, like, your daughter probably is never going to play soccer again or probably be out for 2 years. I was back in 2 weeks. That's how stupid things were back in the day when we didn't take the concussion series, the protocol. And going back to this day of when I did fail my fitness test, it was really heavy on me. I didn't talk to any family. I didn't want to tell them, like, I failed and I let you guys down. I'm in another state. Okay, what is it that you need? She is really feeling this story. And I just basically shut everybody out. I thought that was easier. And some family members were pretty pissed and didn't understand why I wasn't talking, but it was because I failed. Like, why would I want to admit that I failed this test that I should have been crushing, right? Well, that happened, and my career just really wasn't the same ever since then. You know, we had a sports psych person on staff that helped us to train our mindset, and that's what I did for the next 2 weeks, because where we were going to travel was to go to California. We were going to play against Cal Berkeley, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to fail this time. I am going to do everything right. I'm going to do what I need to pass this test. And the protocol that we had at the time was so stupid because they don't even do it now at Mizzou, is that in order to be on the field and practice was like a certain time of like 9:45, and then in order to start was a certain time you had to get on the test. Bullshit, because that completely changed after I left. And people were just playing on the field like no big deal. Like, it makes me mad. And that's something I can't control because that's not what's happening anymore. I can only control the future. And what I did leading into the test the next time to be able to pass and go to California was focusing on how I started my day. And that, it's crazy because now that's what I teach clients, of like how you talk to yourself and how you start your morning really does play into it. And the people, the athletes that are most successful, like, are the ones that are professional, it's because they train their mindset every single day. It's in those tough moments that they are more successful than the one that did not train their mindset. And so when I focused on my routine, I had like literally everything laid out, from my clothes to my food, the time, the music, the way that I ate, like leading up to that, and like timing going to the bathroom, like all of these things to make sure I was ready. And I had a teammate that made sure that they pulled me across the line. And I would say, like, I was a little bit dramatic, and Coach Mann at the time about fucking chewed my ass out when I crossed the line. He was like, don't ever fucking do that again. I can't believe you fucking did that. I thought you died. Because I literally crossed the line and like fell over. Because I put everything into it just to make the time that I needed. Again, I was not really physically fit for this style of the next level at college athletics. No one tells you until it's too late. And I wasn't doing the things I needed to leading up to this, if I'm being completely honest. I was so worried about saying goodbye and doing the things that I needed that I thought was important, but really I should have been focusing on training and getting ready for the big day, you know, getting there on campus. So that was the one thing that really kind of the self-doubt and lack of confidence happened. To then losing my career eventually in junior year of college, my own teammate fucking took me out, like headbutt or elbow to the temple, and just all bad. So I never got to step foot like truly on the field my junior senior year, and I really started to lose myself even more because my identity for so long was soccer. And so you take that away and you don't know who you are. You're not confident in yourself. You're not doing the things that you used to, and you're not putting yourself out there. The confidence was so fucking low. And then I started to drink heavily. All right, I was already drinking pretty heavily leading up to this. I was coping in ways, but that's also because it was normalized for me when I was a kid. Like at 14, I was introduced to booze, and like my mom was like, "It's cool. Like if you drink in our house, it's fine." Like our house was the cool house. She was the cool mom. It's like the one that you see on Mean Girls where she's like doing all the things and throwing all the things. Yeah, that shit really was not the greatest, because look where it ended up for me as I got older. Then not realizing it, and you know, I could have been better about it and chose differently, but you know, you're young and you kind of just go with the flow. So as we get into the rest of my college career, I met Holly, and I'm really glad that I did, because she met me at a time when I needed somebody to see me for me, to just like love me for me. I was no longer a soccer player, and it was somebody different. I was just a person. Like, I wasn't this title or whatever, that I just got to be Kaz. And she didn't know all the stuff that I had gone through, but I had told her what was going on. And so we had conversations about it. I remember her text messages is like, I need you to be smart and not like go back and play. I need you to do X, Y, and Z because I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And I was crazy to hear, because we were young and, U-hauling it, really. But she called me out of my shit when I was like coping with alcohol. And she's like, you literally need to get it together or we're not going to date anymore. And like, she had her own flaws as well, and she'll agree with that if she comments on this, but like, she had her flaws, I had my flaws, but mine, she could have easily ran when she knew how bad it was. But then there was a point in my life where I finally started to slowly turn things around-ish. But we were together, we have our own apartment, we're living together, and this was in 2016. Parents are meeting her, we're going to my graduation, all the things. So I made it through, and I got my fucking diploma and graduated when I had teachers saying that I would never go to school. So that self-doubt started when I had teachers saying I was never good enough. I was never going to go to college. So at a young age, I learned how to be resilient as fuck. I learned how to be disciplined as fuck, to show up for me, because the only person that gets to control your future is you. And I'm like, I am going to do something with my life, and no one's going to tell me I can't do something. It's always been a part of me. So we go through all this process and trying to figure out what I'm going to do next with my life. And I really loved coaching, because I did like my last year and a half on staff, like as a student manager. And I was like, man, this ain't for me. Like, I can't do college athletics. Like, I love my time with Holly. So I didn't pursue college athletics, but I found like a balance of going into the high school level. And so I started at a school called Rockbridge in Missouri, and I was an assistant coach. And then I had an opportunity that came up because the coach that I worked under, he was like, hey, if you really want to be involved in this, pursue special education and go back to school and X, Y, and Z. And I was like, all right. So I looked into it. I applied to a job in Boonville, and I got the teaching job, and then they saw my resume with like all of these qualifications of soccer, and they needed a soccer coach at the time. It was like perfect timing to apply to this job plus getting in for soccer, that wasn't even the job that I went for the interview. It was just special education. But when they called me back, they were like, so would you want to coach soccer? And I was like, absolutely. And they're like, well, would you want to coach boys? Okay. That right there, never done. I've coached all age levels, like when I was growing up, and helped out in all areas, like working at camps and stuff. Never boys. And now looking back on it, I would have said no, because that was the most difficult time in my life. I felt like I was already experiencing like self-doubt with myself, and then I add in the shit with the parents that really creamed me on so many different levels. Like, there's specific parents that were always targeting me. That was tough, and it was heavy in our home. We those 4 years that I worked in this job, it was like constant like negativity and stress. Like, I never felt happy, truly. Like, I had some really great kids that I worked with, and I still talk to this day. And so the ones that have been around, and I've been able to go to their weddings and like go back to some parties and see them, it's really neat to see. But there's a lot of toxic when it goes to that. And that's where that self-doubt still was at. Still wasn't confident in myself. But the other piece that I didn't realize is that I wasn't confident as a lesbian, as a out married woman. Anytime anybody ever said anything to me, I was like, immediate pop off, like getting into fights. Like, I almost had a bottle broken over my head at a concert one time because some asshole was saying something and I didn't like it, and Holly stepped in so no one beat me over with a bottle. But it's because I didn't love myself enough. And this is, I think, where a lot of people do truly struggle and not realizing the thing that holds us back is the lack of self-love, self-compassion, the things that nobody teaches you. We think that if we work out and we eat right, that's going to solve the problems. But there's a reason why we focus on the deeper shit in my coaching. There's a reason why clients that are the most successful are the ones that do the hard shit. And I'm not talking about showing up for a workout or fucking making sure every meal is like across the board. It is showing up for yourself when it's the hardest days. Like every single day, no matter what. Especially if there's like some little fucking bump in the day, you're like, okay, you know what? I got this community behind me, and I know Kaz is going to support me because I know she's gotten through hard shit. And that's what I want my clients to know, is that like you're not alone in the process. So that job leading into like basically being told you don't belong here, and I had since we've talked about it, I was arrested. Person that got away with so much stuff, with drinking, and this was the first time that my life literally flipped upside down. I had no idea what my life was going to be like when that day of I didn't make a complete stop, I didn't put my blinker on, and I got caught up. But I ended up winning my case. I did not end up with a DWI. It was a peace disturbance. But that was the ammo that place needed to shove me out. And they made it clear that no one liked me and I didn't belong due to someone telling me in a meeting. And so I was just like, am I good enough? Am I a good teacher? All of the shit from what people would say about me, where my wife wouldn't even want to come to games because she did not want to hear what a parent would say about the coach, me. That was hard. Like, I never really understood why she couldn't come. But now, like, looking back on it, I'm like, you know what, babe? Like, I understand why you didn't want to be there. That's hard. When I would tell her, like, we just have to let it go. We can't let them get the best of us by interacting, because then we get ourselves in trouble, because that's how it works. But learning to let it go, and, all of these things weighed on so heavy, where I didn't love what I saw in the mirror. I was overweight, unhappy, and it was nothing to do in our marriage. It was just like everything else that I thought I needed to fit into this space. And so self-doubt, there was no self-love. I didn't love who I was. So being angry, coping with alcohol. Like, I remember being like, you know what, I'm going to go get a bottle of Riverboat Red and drink that night when I got home from soccer. Typically after a game and whatnot. So leaving that place was probably the best thing ever when, I did get arrested and things happen. And it's crappy because there's people that I know that work in that place that have done the same, if not more times. So it was where I know that lesbians, LGBTQ people, when you get rejected, discriminated, you do question, are you enough? You try and figure out how to show up, but you're like, how can I when I'm not getting the support that I need? I'm not getting the fair treatment. It makes it hard. And so that's why having a safe, inclusive space around you is so, so important. And I want you to know that you are not alone and that you can change whatever situation you are in if you start to train your mindset. It is possible. Okay? And when we look at, like, all of these things, there was another one, and that's for another time, because there's more to the story of, like, more self-doubt, more self-love that I lacked. And again, that will be on another episode later on down the road, and learning about all the things that I've experienced as an educator. But when we look at self-doubt, a lot of us don't really understand where it truly comes from and what it is. And so what is self-doubt and where does it come from? Like, what are the things that actually keep us stuck and keep us to not be moving forward? And that first one is the society pressures. There's like feeling like you have to look and act a certain way to achieve and be accepted. That was me. I had all of these society pressures, and I know that even like for other people in other states, it's hard to be who you want. So you think that you need to change things in order to be accepted. But in reality, You need to love who you are, and all those other things, those pressures that we do experience, you begin to let go when you love who you are. And you're not gonna change and bend over backwards for these people, because really those are the ones that are not happy with themselves. So that's the first one, where it comes up and what it looks like. The second one is internalized shame. We are believing the messages you've heard about yourself. It's the constant, like, you suck, you're not good enough, you don't belong here. These things that become so heavy that we make them a reality because we have said it over and over again. And it's not what you need to change on this piece from the internalized shame is starting out your morning with a positive outlook. I don't care if you have something bad happening in that day, where like you're going to be going to a family's house that's super toxic. I want you to be like, you know what? Today's going to be a fucking good day, because I am not going to let this affect me in my progress. So internalized shame is one of them. The next one is past experiences. So the old experiences that have shaped us who we are today. And we don't even realize it, but the experiences that we've had as a kid, possibly in other relationships, it's kept us to be feeling like we don't belong. You're bullied, you're rejected, you're criticized, and you're carrying all of this trauma that you can't seem to let go until you decide to work through it. And I've talked to people that are like, oh, how do I do that? Like, what do I do? You have to decide what door you want to reopen. You want to have to decide what thing you want to learn about and why it is that you're the way you are. Like for me, I finally figured out that like I was so triggered because I didn't love myself. It was a lack of self-love. And so it just kept weighing and weighing and weighing because all of my experiences, I allowed it to. The other one that we look at that is where it comes from self-doubt is masking your true self. And I think this is for a lot of queer people, like we feel like we need to hide pieces of when we go around certain people. Like maybe when, like for Holly and I, for a long time, when we would go out to like dinners and stuff, we wouldn't hold hands because we wanted to be mindful of others. We wouldn't kiss each other. It was like so many things that we felt like we had to hide. But when you look at it, heterosexual couples are fucking making out in public. They're macking all over each other. And it's not like I'm saying that Holly and I want to do that, but we would just want to be able to like be us and feel safe. But I get it. We're not in a place and time in our world today where we can feel like that. And so we do begin to mask ourselves. But what we need to do instead is that I want you to just love who you are. Like truly love the person that you see in the mirror. Because when you begin to do that, all of the outside noise begins to quiet. That self-doubt quiets down. And let me be real. Everybody's going to have opinions and everybody's going to be having thoughts. But you have to let them, as Mel Robbins would say, you have to just let them be them. Those people are stuck in old ways. They have so much hate, but you can't change that. You literally cannot change them. And that's one thing I didn't realize in my teaching jobs. There was no way I was going to change them, and there was no way I was going to fit. The only thing that I was going to be able to change is how I showed up for myself, how I worked on myself to be able to overcome this. And, I had an experience recently where my sister was like, dude, how have you been able to just let things go? And I was like, I've been through a lot, when I first came out, and finally I was just like, I'm not going to put energy into that. It's really what it's all about. Where do you want to put your energy, and how do you want to feel? Like, do you want to be angry and upset all the time? Or do you want to just be high on life on cloud nine and being like, I love who I am and I'm showing up and I don't give a fuck what people think. That is how I live my life now. And that's how I want you to live your life, because there's so much out there. And the more and more that you can begin to open that box up, because we shrink ourselves and put ourselves in a box, the more you can start to open up. And that's when everything else starts to align. You start to show up in the gym and not worry about who fucking Joe Schmo is over here who's got muscles to the nine, to the food thing where it's been a struggle, but now you're like, I love the way I'm eating because I'm feeling good. I have better energy. All of these things start to come into place that we don't even think about. And it's crazy because the foundation is the fucking mindset. That's what it's all about. It's not about, can you do more workouts? Can you do more bench press and 205 or whatever the fuck you're doing, or eating more perfect meals. It's you taking care of you and training the muscle that no one trains enough of. or every single day. It's the consistency of showing up for you when you are really needing to, when it's tough. But that's when you grow, when you train that muscle. Just like you train arm and legs, your mind begins to grow when you do it more consistently. And the key is every single day, how you start your day, how you talk to yourself. Stop with the fucking negative, okay? Stop with the negative. And if you're listening to this on a radio, you're going to want to come back to this. So mark this when you hear it. But if you're on my YouTube, you're going to pause it and get yourself a pen and paper right now, because we're going to take a quiz. You're like, what the fuck? I thought I was just listening to you, bitch. I am going to give you something that's going to help you identify how you do with self-doubt. And this is one of the things that we do in our coaching program. We talked about this on a masterclass, and I also want to do this here because I think a lot of people don't realize how much they truly struggle with it until we can pinpoint it and how we move forward and what we need to identify. And that's why I'm talking about how mindset, the foundation, is so important. But this is where we need to begin if you truly are ready to start breaking through. Okay? Questions 1 through 10. T or F? T or F? Mara's over in the fucking closet. She's not in the closet, but she's playing in the closet. Okay, number 1. I do not like to try something new unless I'm good at it. 2, I'm often afraid of making mistakes. I'm reading my book. Question 3, I often believe that I am not good enough. 4, I'm afraid to go outside my comfort zone. 5, I believe that others will not like me. 6, I replay conversations and think of things I could have said better. 7, I do not like to try new things. 8, I worry about what others will think of me. 9, I believe I have failed many times. 10, I often think negative, catastrophic thoughts that start with, what if? Okay, that's questions 1 through 10. I will come back at the end of the podcast episode because I want to keep moving forward on this. But that quiz will hopefully give you some clarity of what things you might need to focus on. And I'll give you the results at the end. Okay, so when we look at how we have been doing things on our journey, how I had done things on my journey, and I thought it was the fucking right way because that's what I thought, that's what I needed to do to, go be a soccer player at the collegiate level, go be the things in my life, when in reality, it was completely flipped. So we talk about this triangle that most people start on, this path of when it's a New Year's resolution, it's I'm going to work out more. I'm going to hit the gym 4 or 5 times a week, which that's not realistic, especially if you're a person that fucking struggles with that. As well as I'm going to cut out all the foods that I love. I'm not going to go and get ice cream when I love ice cream. And then the other things of mindset at the tip of the triangle. So the foundation is flipped upside down where we think workouts, think food, and then we think mindset. Mindset nobody really touches if we're being honest. And that's why most people do not make this a lifestyle. And what I want people to understand is that this is where clients who are in the program are most successful when they focus on the foundation. So we flip that bitch upside down and we focus on the base. And the base truly is the mindset. Once you start to focus on you and get more clarity of what you have struggled with, referring back to this self-doubt quiz that we just did, which you'll get the results, as well as getting more clear of why are you wanting to show up. And I don't want to hear oh, I just want to feel healthier. Exactly why do you want to get to where you want to be? Is it because you want to be able to get up and down with your kiddos and be able to not fucking hurt? Is it that you want to be able to provide a life for the ones around you because you are more confident in yourself, so you're putting yourself out there? There's got to be something deeper of why you are showing up. If you don't have a real why, you're not going to make it a lifestyle. It's not going to stick. So get fucking clear on that for me, because that will make the shift. Being more aware of next steps. That is the first real part of change. Being more self-aware of what it is that you need to do of change. Okay? Now, I already talked about getting clear on your why. And that, I don't know how many times I fucking heard that in teaching. Oh, why are you here? And, there was one person that said, are you here to leave a legacy? Okay, there's some teachers that do leave legacies. I have a teacher to this day that I still talk to, and I'm so glad I have that teacher, because if it wasn't for them, I would have struggled a lot in high school. Like, getting emotional because it was such a good teacher. They helped me through a lot. And there's teachers that do make an impact on you. That one did. And the way they taught, it wasn't how they taught the peer counseling. It's how they truly cared. Those are the teachers that make the impact. And what I was trying to do in teaching was the same thing. But it was hard when my why became less about more what I wanted people to think of me instead of like how I wanted to show up, because I'm a damn good teacher at, teaching someone how to eat better, teaching somebody how to just be a better individual. Like, I have a kid that wrote, I made them better for the future. Like, man, this is hard. But just seriously making an impact on kids that I don't get to do that anymore, but I get to help people like you, if you're listening to this podcast, someone that just needs to see them for exactly who they are. And I didn't have that. And that's why it's so important to me that you show up for yourself no matter what. There's other people out there that are going to support you. And that's what I'm here for, is to help you get damn clear on who you are and break the barriers and have that support, where you don't want to have this negative self-talk anymore, where we're saying things like, I'm a loser, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to look this way, this is never going to be my career, like they're never going to accept. I want you to get away from that shit, because the more and more negative you are, the more stuck you stay. And I grew up in a negative home. I don't know how many times, like, I heard my mom just, like, constantly negative, and I'm like, no wonder I struggled being able to flip out of the positive. And I know Holly will say, like, typically I still struggle with this. Like, I will always say the negative thing first in, like, a job setting, or when I was working, or even, like, the doggy daycare. Like, I will say that first before actually naming out the positives. And it's hard, but you have to be willing to shift out of it. And so when we look at, like, negative self-talk, it's when you have one negative thought, replace it with two positive. Being in my master's program, I thought it was so stupid, because, like, I learned most of this when I was playing, because that was the program I went through for my master's. And I was just like, that's so dumb. But it's so true. Our mind is so strong. And when we can rewire it with more positive thoughts, we're going to be able to do the things that we need to. Because now you're believing in the person that you want to become. So again, if you have a negative thought ever in your day, you can replace it with two positive thoughts every single time. Okay, you are in control on how you can flip things around. The other thing that I did when I was in my last year of teaching, that was really tough, because I wasn't teaching. I was babysitting kids that were the tough kids. And there were some kids that really were just in there because they had their phone out, like dumb reasons. But I had this thing where when I would go to the bathroom, and we went to the bathroom a lot because I was drinking like a gallon of water, my big jug that I'd bring. I'm like, and also I didn't want to be in the room with them for the whole time. I wanted more breaks to get up and move, because you're staring at the same four walls and the kids are getting antsy too. But we want to begin with I was doing the high five method in the mirror, like, I got this, you are enough. Like, again, rewiring this brain when I had, like, certain situations with kids where they just were, like, pinpointing, like, target stuff, like, oh, you got fired for that. Like, bringing up stuff they didn't even know about, where I'm like, oh my God, like, how am I supposed to, like, live in this role and survive when I needed to thrive? The other thing, too, is, like, I heard this from one of the coaches that I've worked with, like, when you go to the bathroom is another opportunity to, like, wash away that negativity. That is an opportunity to reset your mind. Like, let go of everything and move forward. So that's another thing that I've done too for myself when I've really struggled with, like, current situations when I was teaching. But that's something that you can do as well. Like, just having some skills to start working through being more positive. Now, when we look at reinforcing self-compassion, I want to have some sayings, some mantras. Like, we provide an ebook to clients that is 17 pages and has a bunch of templates. And one of the things we have like a mantra, affirmations, and what you could say. You know, the one that I like to use is that I'm doing the damn thing. That's my favorite one. I probably say it a lot on my content, as well as like, I'm learning and growing every day, or I'm showing up every single day. So whatever words that you want to use or sentences that's going to help you, use them. And my other recommendation is like maybe writing it on a document or a sticky note and put it on your mirror. That might be helpful. Maybe you never thought about it and you're like, that's stupid. You won't know until you try. The other thing that we could look at, like to start breaking out of self-doubt and building the strong mindset to continue to show up for yourself, is providing you another tool, another technique that we have talked about on group calls, is when you are in a tough situation, we need to remain calm. The way I grew up was, can I be louder than you? Can I be heard? Etc. It was always responding immediately. Like that never got us anywhere. And I always would watch the person. I'm like, no one respects you because you just are like loud and you're attacking them. So what I like to say is like to be in a better position and like pay more attention to your body, because when we do respond and we're going at people with certain things, our body gets really tense. So when you are in a tough situation, start to pay attention to how your body tenses up. Like your shoulders begin to tense up when you are in a tough situation. And what I did in teaching, and when I had certain kids where I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be tough, I would just really pay attention to my body and understand that you don't have to say something back. The power of silence is so good. Like I remember doing this to a kid one time and the kid was like, what, you got nothing to say to me right now? And I'm like, took a deep breath. I was like, I have nothing. And they're wanting a rise out of you. And so the more and more I practice this in like the tough situations, I got better at it. And you can too. So some questions that you can ask yourself. What am I feeling like in a tough situation? Like, and you're thinking in your own head, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling that way? And what can I do next to help myself? Okay. Those are the 3 things that you can utilize to be able to pay attention to the tough times. Okay. I want you to keep in mind that like, you're not going to be perfect at this the first time. It's going to take time, especially when you're learning to become a better version of yourself and breaking out of that self-doubt into self-love. That's the process, man. Change is happening every day, and you got to be willing to do that in order to grow. It has to happen every day. So here's my challenge to you, is that you need to move your body more. And people are like, well, I don't really like to get outside. Moving your body and getting outside is going to make a world of a difference. I've had clients that are doing so much better mentally and being able to drop off the weight because they're not as stressed because they've done just that, of moving more because they've been at their desk before working with me. So moving your body more and some type of daily habit. Again, these are the things in your control. No one gets to take that. You get to decide how you show up for yourself. So your daily habit could be meditation, or it could be journaling or visualization. Like you are just visualizing who you're becoming. Meditation is like closing your eyes, like kind of the same thing, I guess. But I love the journaling one. And I've had a client that really struggled with that in the beginning, where they didn't know what to write. And then all of a sudden they were writing like 3 pages because they started to just let the pen flow. I'm not asking you to do anything crazy or anything with it. Just maybe journal about like, how do you want to show up for yourself, or some daily affirmations, rewiring your brain. That is what I did. I started just saying, I am doing this. I am becoming this person. I am showing up. You'll be surprised on how much it can shift. Okay. Now, as y'all been waiting for, probably at the edge of your seats for this fucking quiz results, let's get into it. Okay. So the question, or what you need to do first, is basically put 10 points next to every T that you see on your paper. Okay. So every T that you see, put 10 points. Now, this is how the scoring works. And I want to be very clear on this, is that it doesn't define you as a person. It just gives you some clarity and some steps and for your roadmap of where you need to go next and how you want to start. And this is what we do with clients. Like, we just want to have something that we need to start focusing on in our mindset to get better with, breaking those barriers. Okay, so 0 to 40. You have done a fantastic work on treating yourself kindly and encouraging yourself. Keep it up. 40 to 60%. There are some situations in which you struggle to feel worthy, and other times you are comfortable with yourself. Continue to recognize and challenge your inner critical voice. 60 to 80 is you often hold back from living fully due to fears and insecurities. Keep working and practicing to build your confidence and achieve the things you deserve. And then 80 to 100, you're in the right place by listening to the Lesbian Lounge, because we're here to empower. And if you want to take that next step, we're here as well. But it's great you are recognizing how crucial conquering self-doubt can be in improving yourself and in life. Okay? Again, this is just a stepping stone for maybe you didn't really know where you were at on it. And sometimes it's an eye-opener for people when they do it with me, when we talk about it on our group calls or when I send it over in master classes and stuff. Again, it does not define you. And I hope that this episode was helpful, and would love to hear any feedback if you guys have any. And you can send that in our TikTok or my personal Instagram, because obviously I did all the talking today. No Holly, as we all miss her, because she really is the light of my day. But we will be back together October, I think it's 24th, I believe, that Friday, that we'll have an episode back up together. But in the meantime, you get me. And as always, guys, make sure you give a like and a follow and subscribe, or send to somebody else that needs to hear this message today. But thanks again for being with the Lesbian Lounge. And I'm Kaz. Holly's not here. We'll see you on the next episode.